direction when you feel you want to blink. First look left and then look right and now straight ahead. Be sure and take a warning of every word we say. Now you lay you down to sleep, be sure and get some rest. Tomorrow is another day and you must pass the test. Don't try and think too different, now what we say is best. Listen, little man, you know better than the rest.
Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of Musical Connections. Now, the man over to my right here, well, if you're Irish and if you love Rory Gallagher, he needs no introduction, because Sam Davidson, well, he stepped into very big shoes. He was Rory's replacement in taste. Now, Sam has done many other things since, but it's fair to say that he very ably done the job, and I'm very proud to introduce you to the one and only Sam Davidson. How are you, Sam?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm great. Sam, tell the viewers, how did it all start for you? How did this musical journey start for Sam Davidson?
Well, it started for me when I was about 14, 15. I'd learned to play the guitar slightly, taught myself to play guitar a bit. When I turned 15, I got my first electric guitar, and that was it. I formed my first band then when I was 15 with a guy that actually drums with me now, Liam McMullen, on drums. Me and him were boyhood pals for years. We formed our first band, put it on the road, and we did that did on the club circuit and dance hall circuit for maybe 3, 4, 5 years. And in those days it was just semi-professional. You did it the weekend or you did it the nights. And then I decided to go ahead and open up the first studio. So I opened up my first recording studio about 1987. And I did a lot of work in there. I did a lot of work for other bands. I hadn't written any songs at all at the time. It was only covers that I was doing when I played. So when I got the studio, I had a lot of time on my hands in the studio, and I decided to start putting bits and pieces together, writing my own songs and that. And you do what you always do. You get it on a cassette, as it was then in those days, and send it off to as many record companies as you can.
Yeah.
And you get the obligatory letter back saying sorry, but no thanks. And then when I had the studio, I was introduced to John Wilson at the time, and me and him formed a band called the Belfast Blues Band with a guy called Eric Rickson on keyboards, who was originally with Thin Lizzy, funnily enough, way at the beginning. And a guy called Jackie Favell, bass player, well-known bass player, jazz bass player, world-known. And he came in on bass, and we put the Belfast Blues Band together. And we decided to start doing a wee bit of touring after a while. And we got a few gigs in Germany and Czechoslovakia, as it was at the time. And we toured there for maybe 3, 4 years, 5 years. And then in 1995, whenever Rory died, the record company wanted to know with John and Charlie, Richard McCracken, would they be interested in reforming a band with someone else out front to promote the back catalogue.
Yes.
And John asked me to do it, would I be interested in doing it? And to be perfectly honest, I had to think a while before we decided. As you say, they're big shoes to try and fill. But in the end, I decided I would do it, but I would do it on my terms. And I would promote Rory's songs when he was with Taste, but I would play them my way and play them the way I think Taste would be doing them now, had Rory been still alive. And that's how I finished up with Taste. We toured the world with Charlie and John. And we brought out a couple of albums, brought out a Taste of Rory album, which was dedicated to Rory stuff, and it was original Taste stuff that he had done with the boys. And then we did an album of original stuff called Wall to Wall, which was really interesting because it was the first time I actually sat down and decided to write an album of songs myself. And it's not as easy as people might think it is. But we got it together and we got it out, and it sold well. And then Charlie decided he had had enough of music and decided to retire. So John and me carried on for a while, and then John fell into ill health and he had to retire again as well. So since then I've been trying to carry it on with Sam Davidson's Taste, Again, trying to keep the legacy going, making sure that everybody knows what the three boys did, which was way beyond their years at that particular time. And the way they played the songs was totally different the way anybody else played. And that's what I tend to try to do now. Try to do them slightly different than what you normally would hear.
Yeah, and did you find, Sam, when, as you say, when you toured across the world, that you were very warmly received by the Rory fans as well?
We certainly were, yeah. Rory Gallagher, he's a god in places. Some of the places we played in had shrines to them in their bedrooms. You know, he was a very, very popular artist. And he's even more popular now since he died, funnily enough. And you only have to go to like Ballyshannon every year and you see the number of bands that are playing Rory stuff. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
But they're keeping the legacy going, they're keeping the music going, and it means that we did a gig in Whelan's in Dublin, and there was a young lad and girl, his sister, and they brought their father to hear the gig, and he was in a wheelchair, and he hadn't seen Taste gigging since 1969, but he was a really big fan, and they brought him just to hear Taste play in Whelan's, and whenever we finished, his son and daughter were both fans then. They bought albums
Not lovely.
and went to hear us in many's a gig after that. But it was their father that introduced them to music. So at least it's still getting out to young people as well. They're able to understand exactly what the boys did in those days.
Look, and I can tell from, you know, how you speak of it there that it means so much to you as well. It means so much to carry on that legacy and be a part of something that really very special, very big part of Irish rock heritage.
It certainly is. It certainly is. And as I say, it's even reflected in the songs that I write myself. I would write them basically the way Taste would have recorded them back in the 60s. But it's still fresh. You know, it's a strange thing. It's a strange thing. But as I say, everybody's loves Rory. You know, no matter who you speak to, nobody has a bad. I don't think I've ever heard anybody having a bad word about him.
No, you know? No. And I suppose, Sam, like many other artists, it hasn't been easy in the last 2 years with COVID, getting live gigs and getting out there. But I assume it's still possible, but it has changed a bit, Sam.
The world has changed. The world has changed. Any work that I've done in the last 2 years, which is very, very little, would be here in Ireland. Travelling abroad. The thing about travelling abroad is everything has to be organised way in advance. And to do that now, you don't know what's going to happen with COVID. So you could have it all organised and all the money put into it and then have to cancel it at the last minute.
Yeah.
So nobody wants to take the risk of organising a festival or a big gig and then having to cancel it at the last minute, you know.
So would you kind of feel, Sam, that the whole gig side of things, is, whether it's here or the UK or indeed any other European country, is become less international, more localised, at least for now?
Yeah, it has.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is there's a lot of people still doing Zoom gigs. We've done a few ourselves, which means that you're still getting your music out to the people internationally because they can obviously all go on and watch it. But it's strange doing it that way because you finish your song and there's nothing, there's deadly silence.
Yeah.
Even though there could be thousands. We did one for the Belfast Blues Festival and there was something like 25,000 people logged on to watch it. But every time we finished the last note, we were the only 4 people in the room. And
so there was a deadly silence, even though you knew that there was thousands upon thousands of people. Whereas if that 25,000 was in an arena,
that's it.
Yeah, because it's probably true to say, you know, you feed off that. You know, if there's that vibe coming from and they're appreciating the music, you feed off them and they feed off you.
That's exactly it. Now the Taste is slightly different because when we start a gig, we go in their own world. And we used to have it on the posters. We invite the audience to participate in a musical journey where anything can happen and usually does. And that's true because we would go in their own world and the crowd are invited there to listen to it. Do you know what I mean? And you do to a certain extent play off the crowd, but with the type of music we play and the way we play it, we tend to do it anyway.
Yeah.
You know, the crowd response is a bonus. It's not a necessity.
Yeah.
You know?
I remember I asked you one other time when we were talking what was the best gig you ever did. Or I don't know whether you remember the answer you gave me. Yeah, maybe you tell it again.
It was the best gig I ever played was the 3 people and an 850-seater theatre. And the promoter had advertised it for the previous night. So everybody came the night before we arrived. And whenever we arrived at the theatre, there was nobody there. And we had the gear all set up. So we decided we'll just go ahead and do the gig anyway. And there was a caretaker was actually hoovering. He was sweeping up the floor. And he sat at the back and listened. And there was a guy and a girl happened to be walking past him, came in and sat down beside him. And they sat through the whole gig, 2-hour show. Just the 3 people. And it was the best gig we ever did.
Right.
Musically, it was the best we'd ever played.
So it was really fun.
Oh, it was.
I know. Well, Sam, you know, I want to say thanks so much for coming here to do this Musical Connections episode. You know, I'm so proud of what you and so many other people do to entertain people, because look at folks, you know, music is the food for our souls. It keeps us sane. It can, and certainly through what has happened in recent times. And people like Sam Davidson and many others, you know, if it wasn't for them doing what they do, life would be a lot greyer and a lot sadder. So on behalf of all the people out here that are watching this, and indeed the many people that will watch it in the future, Sam, thanks so much for bringing so much happiness to all of us.
Not a problem, man.
Thank you, Sam.
Cheers.
You must remember, it's just cold as the sky. But I can't remember what I saw. She looked like the morning sun, but you must remember.